This is Kendrick Bailey, and you're listening to the Three Count Podcast. Let's get it.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club, baby, grind on me. Do you wanna get live with me? Do you wanna get live with me?
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Into Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by season 4 in our 300 and something episode, I would just hope you say it with me, I am your Sherpa. Because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring today? You can find this person attached to the newly found PWA. That's right, Pro Wrestling Altered. He is a graphic designer. He's a booker. He's a storyteller. He is Kendrick Bailey.
What's going on?
What's up, man? How you been?
I've been just trying to get everything organized with this new wrestling venture thing that I got going on. October 8th, New Jersey, PWA presents work, and you're going to be there.
I am going to be there, and it's funny because just seeing the poster and stuff like that get passed out and stuff, I saw it and I was like, yo, I'm just excited because my boys were on the show, right? So Pure Ignorance on there, as well as Sicken, who not a lot of people know is my trainer. Actually, everybody who paid attention to this podcast knows that he's my trainer. But you had all these people on there that I've known, PJ Savage, who's also been on this podcast before. So you've had all these people come on the show or are going to be attached to the show. And I was like, yeah, there's no doubt that I wouldn't share the show because all my friends are attached to it. So I was like, let me go ahead and put this out there. But how did you get into the wrestling game? I'm just curious about that.
So it's actually funny because this was right the night after WrestleMania 31. I started getting on Google and I was like, yo, I really got to make this wrestling thing happen right now. And I was Googling different places and I actually came across your trainer, Sickened. And, eventually later in that year, it was around June-ish, maybe July, I met up with him for the first time and he had me run the ropes, had me take bumps, had me do all that. And that was what my first day of training was learning from him. And I learned a lot from him actually. I mean, I've always sort of been into wrestling or whatever, when I was younger, I would watch it. I remember being 4 or 5 years old watching it, but I never knew that there was anything outside of a WWE or whatever until maybe 2014, 2015.
No, it's funny though because for a long period of time, see, for me, I'm a lot older in the game, where longer in the tooth, I guess people could also say. Just telling you guys, I'm old. Anyway, but I remember a time when there was WCW, ECW, and WWE. And when WCW and ECW got bought by WWE and there was no other wrestling, I could see because for a while there next to Ring of Honor, if you were paying attention to it, or Impact, right? If you were watching TNA back in the day, then you kind of knew of some other wrestling stuff going on. But really for the longest time, from 2003 to more 2002, all the way to 2014, 2015, before Kenny Omega started really coming along with New Japan and bringing it with him. You really didn't know anything else that was out there, not on the mainstream wise, right? Now everybody, there's a lot of people who would be like, well, there was OVW and FCW, and you had some of your other and I'm like, yeah, but not everybody paid attention to wrestling that hardcore, and so but it's also weird too to think about that, the more you dig into it, the more you start to find other promotions out there that you're like, oh, I could be interested in that promotion. I might have to go check that out.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you?
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say right after. It's funny that you had said that because I had never been to an independent promotion either, and Sicken was the reason why I went to that, and I worked security my first show, and I mean, that was my introduction, and like getting to see, the guys do what they do, like see how they put their matches together and whatnot. Like that was all like a foreign concept to me.
Yeah, it is. It is weird when you like sit back and you're like listening to other people. I know it's been funny because like I've heard other people talk about, like I had one person, I forget who it was telling about how their little brother was asking about, can I just listen to you call your match? And I was like, it is
Mm,
such a weird concept to me, but it's also like one that was like, yeah, you should be doing that. Like if you want to learn how to put a match
hmm
together, or if you want to learn the concepts of like a good story to tell inside of a ring, of course you're gonna want to like listen to other people call their match because they're gonna give you some insights that you probably didn't know about. And I do like that, and it's something I've talked to like I've talked to Sicken about too a couple times. And I still reach out to him and talk to him about wrestling like all the time because I'm
mm,
like, hey, XYZ, what would I do in this kind of situation? What should I think about in this situation? It's always kind of fun to get like feedback from him, especially about like what's happening.
mm,
Whenever it's not really when it's live, but when he like watches back some of my matches and stuff like that, and gives us pointers of what he would have done or what he liked and what he didn't like.
mm.
So, what are your what made you think that like man, PWA's got to be the move? Like, what inspired this whole thing to kind of launch off? Where you're like, after WrestleMania, like this is it. Let's put it together. Let's get this whole thing lined up. And how long have you been working on PWA?
I mean, so I mean, when I first like started training or whatever, I had it in my head like I wanted to do wrestling. Like I wanted to wrestle for other people, but then also wanted something that like I myself made something that like I could help, like I guess elevate and like build talent and whatnot. Like let them tell their stories. And so like it's always been in my head, but I remember last summer, like I was sitting and I was talking to my girl about it, and I was like, like I I've sat and I've tried to put together like a card 100 times. Like I've had all these different ideas, these different stories and whatnot, and like she kind of just told me like, hey, like like if you want to do it, like just do it. And I was like, yeah, like it sounds like you know what I mean. Like that's easier said than done, but like I was like, okay, like yeah, that makes sense. And then had to have been like earlier this year is like when I really started putting the pieces together, and I was like, okay, realistically speaking, like if I were to put together this card, who would I have on it? What do I want the matches to be like? Like what story do I want to tell? And then I don't know, like stuff happened. I reached out to some people, and we started like putting this thing together. And like it still feels like I have a while to go before the show actually is gonna happen. But like, I mean, this month has flown by. It just feels like it's gonna be here before I even know it.
Yeah, and that's the one thing too is that like you want to get with people and kind of network and stuff like that. And it's
Mm,
something that you had just mentioned, right? Like you just started connecting with different people and trying to figure it out, and then next thing you know, like you start to see like the fruits of your labor start to get put together, right? Like you
yeah.
get different people, like yeah, I'm available on that day, or this person's available, and then you get that person booked and you bring that person on, and then next thing you know, you start building up this like this card, and you're like, all right, cool. So then you start thinking like the bigger picture of like where who's gonna wrestle who, and like you said, like what's the story between that? How do we make it spin? Like this character and that character, are they going to work fluidly together? Is this going to be
hmm
kind of a brash? Does this person and that person have heat in another company? Like you're always trying to figure
Yeah.
out like all the little things, like the crazy things that are like going on, like inside like the wrestling world, but then also like in the drama side of wrestling world, which
hmm
as a professional, like there are probably going to be some people who have some issues, but they'll get over it,
Yeah.
work together, and then they're gonna try to put on the best card or best matches they can. But it's funny to think about like, dang man, like how does this person and that person, how they're gonna work together?
And like, I mean, like, I've sat in, I guess, a couple of creative meetings, if you would call them that. Like, I've seen like how different companies put together their matches, and like I've seen like just their, I guess, their idea of like what they want their company to be. And I mean, like that's good for them. It's good for however it is that they want to do it. But like, I guess my main thing is like as cliche as it sounds, I do want to be different from everything else that like we've been seeing. Like, yeah, you could go here and you could see like a really good match, and yeah, you could go here and you could see like a really good this and a really good that. But like, I just want my focus to be more on like the stars, like the wrestlers telling their stories, whether it be through I guess them wrestling or through them talking or through them doing whatever. Like, I just want I want to give the people a place to show like who they are.
No, and that's important though, is that especially like you want you want these guys who are going to put on like show for you, right? And to bring back more
Yeah.
fans, right? Because at the end of the day, let's be real, like we're just putting on a, and I'm sorry to pull the curtain back for some of you guys. We're putting on a show for people, right? And we want them to come back. You want to give them a reason to come back and enjoy whatever it is that they're doing. And it's always unique to hear like the aspect of people who are talking between like when they're faces and they're talking to their heels, right? And they're trying to determine how this match is going to roll or how they're going to move. And it's always fun to
Hmm.
see like the the ball get put together, and then you can see like the bigger show work out. But then more importantly, you also kind of have to hope that like the people who are you're putting the people on the show that they kind of understand where their place is on the card because sometimes
Hmm.
everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna go and put, and we all want to put on the best match that we can, but not everybody can be like Shawn Michaels and be the show stealer.
Yeah.
Like they can be the showstopper. Like not, it's not happening.
And I mean, I was telling certain people because I mean, like some people know, like because we haven't really like announced a bunch of matches yet, but like some people know their matches and whatnot, and they know like where it is that I'm gonna have the match on the card, and some of them understand, and then some of them it kind of gave me a little bit of a hard time about it, but I was just like, hey, like I have a vision for everyone, like I picked everyone specifically for this. It's like it's it's really one of those things where you kind of just have to trust the process. Where sometimes like it doesn't always pay off. Like sometimes maybe a promoter might not have anything for you, but like more often than not, like it really is just a waiting game.
And also, you want people to make sure that like they one that they're heard, right? They're like, hey man, like I don't got anything for you right now. But you would
Yeah.
also hope that that person is gonna come to you and be like, all right, cool. Well, if you don't got anything for me, can I pitch this idea? And they're coming to you, and then
Hmm.
you both can work. Because maybe maybe you don't have anything for that person, but that person can be like, well, does that person got anything going on? No, cool. Can we run a
Hmm.
story with that person? And this is how we can entangle it. And then once you determine like what you got for me afterwards, then we can kind of like unwind it and then just let bygones be bygones and keep rolling on with the story. But I think it's important that people work collaboratively when it comes to
Hmm.
like especially working in a wrestling promotion and pitch ideas. Like I think that's a problem I had recently at a promotion that I used to work at, and I got along with everybody there. And that was the one thing that a lot of people told me. They're like, "Man, like we really like you. You're a great person." And
Hmm.
one person told me that I was way too nice, and I would never pitch ideas because I was like, "Yo, they got me. They'll figure it out." Blah 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 blah. Like
Hmm.
I kept thinking that, and I was like, "Oh no, they don't have anything for me because they want to use other people in other places." And I'm like,
Hmm.
I guess I'm just kind of here, just a body for people. And I was like, and I just kept kind of getting flushed to the back, even though everybody was like, "Yo, we really like you. Keep coming back. Keep working for us." I'm like, cool. And finally, I was just at the point where I was like, you know what? Like, I ended up moving. It's not like I didn't like the promotion. I'm still friends with them. I still think they're a great promotion. I just,
Hmm.
I ended up moving. And like, now I'm like, all right, I'm going to take the lessons that I had from the Mid Atlantic and start applying them to the Northeast and start trying to really push for things, right? Like, reach out to other promoters and talk to them and see what they're looking for. And if maybe I can fit in, or maybe if I'm just looking for, another place to just kind of go train at, or
Hmm.
a place that's having a weekly show where I can go on there and just kind of get reps in. Like, there's all sorts of things that I'm looking for, and now I'm like, all
Hmm.
right, let me just start showing up and start helping and get my name out there so people know, like, one, I'm not here just to be like, hey, let me take your money. No, it's more of me like, hey, let me help you push your brand and do whatever it is that you want to do, and then maybe you might have a spot for me, and then we can talk more about that.
Hmm. And most of, I mean, a lot of the bookings that I've gotten have been like me doing something like that. Like, I mean, when I was wrestling for 1CW for a little bit there, like they had a place for me on the card like every show. Like I give Sean Carlson credit for that. Like he made sure that he had something for me because I was showing up and I was helping set up and I was being like, hey, like, do you need this? Do you need that? And a lot of people think that they're above that. Um, I mean, again, like you never really stop like paying your dues. You shouldn't anyway. I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right about that. You should start paying your dues. That's actually what kind of helped me out because I know when I was here, I showed up to an event for Beyond Wrestling called Water Everywhere. I just showed up. I wanted to help out. I found out
Mm-hmm.
they're actually just down the street from where I live, and I went and helped them out. And the next thing you know, like I asked, hey, do you want to? I think might have an open spot on, the Wrestling Open. Do you want to come? And I was like, of course, because that was my since January of 2023, and to be fair, actually since July of 2022, my whole deal was I wanted to get on the Wrestling Open. I've been like wanting to
Mm-hmm.
get on the show ever since it started because I was like, this is like a great concept. It's a weekly show. It's an indie show, and it's in Massachusetts where like I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people here, so it can make it easy for me to kind of like pop in, like stay a couple nights with some friends and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
work, and then go away. And then, as fate would have it, a full year later, I end up moving here, and now it's like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Now we're here. So how are we gonna do this? And so I got, I did that, and I got on the Wrestling Open, and now I just come and help out every week. And though they don't have anything for me, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna keep showing up, keep helping out, keep doing it, and then maybe someday they're gonna be like, hey, yo, you weren't you like a mercenary type guy with like a sense of humor? Cool. We need you. Like, come on the show.
They definitely remember things like that.
And that actually helped me out with I know it's networked me with another promotion because actually it was funny because Sean Carlson actually was the one that got me connected with a promotion in Maine called Supernova Wrestling, and
Uh-huh.
when I got to work there, I got to make my debut in Maine. It was because of Sean, and he had put it in words in there that like one, like I was a good worker, and that like I would help out with whatever you guys needed them, whatever they needed me to do. And obviously he wasn't wrong because they wanted me to come back. They're like, hey, we need you. And I ended up working twice at a show that I was only supposed to work at a Rumble. Like that was the only thing I was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do was this Rumble spot. And they're like, "Hey, we had a bunch of call offs. Can you work a 10-minute match?" And I was like, "Sure, just whatever." So you always have to be kind of like open to like one helping out, but two just be ready. And you don't ever have to be ready if you're always ready. So just be
Mm.
ready to be on the show. But tell me, man, what's one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn being uh, being in the business so far?
Um, I guess one that the business doesn't revolve around me, so to speak. I mean, when I was like first getting in, I was like 17, 16 years old. So like I mean I was young and I know I still had a lot of like life experience that I needed to get, before I could like fully understand like even something like wrestling. And I mean, yeah, a lot of lessons learned by like me talking back and whatnot, and me like not necessarily listening to like a promoter's idea of me or me like thinking that I'm better than whoever and whatnot. Um, I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest like advice I would give anyone like coming up in wrestling is really just to keep to yourself as far as like the controversial like whatever opinions you may have. Like everyone has opinions, but just I mean try to get them across in a respectful way. Like, don't bash anyone, don't bury anyone, don't, you know, because you can get your point across. Like, you can say that you think that you're this, or you think that you're worth this or worth that without burying anyone. Like, yeah, again, like that's a concept that I had to learn the hard way. But I mean, I'm still here now. Like, people have been gracious enough to like hear me out and like help me with this promotion that I'm starting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a very important thing to one, like, if you think your opinion might be controversial, like, find a very tactful way to say it. I
Hmm.
think one thing that a lot of people kind of forget too is that like everybody's watching the show, right? And a lot of people are going to have like a lot of opinions, and you kind of have to like heed people's opinions, right? So like I'm not saying like discard them, right? But take them in, right? Pick out the pieces that are going to stick to you, and then kind of I don't want to say discard the rest, but kind of discard the rest. Like just give,
Hmm.
like, but don't do it in front and be like, oh no, I like this and this, and I'm not going to use that. But like definitely like make sure that you're just being respectful in the locker room because that's like the
Hmm.
biggest thing that you have to look for, right? And being respectful in the show too. And I've had a couple other people who are more veteran than me who've asked me to like watch over their matches and stuff and like critique them. And it's like I've had a lot of people ask me to critique their matches, and it's weird because like I've only been doing this for just under 4 years now, and like
Hmm.
to have these guys who have been doing this for 20, 30, 20 plus years ask me for advice, I'm like, that's why I like it because I think what they're looking for is just some fresh eyes to look at what they're doing.
Hmm.
But then the second part is it's kind of nerve wracking because you don't want to step on somebody's toes and then say something and then have them retort back, be like, well, this is why I did that. I'm like, cool, but that's not what I saw and that's what you're asking me for. And so you kind of have to like, it's a double edged sword of something that you kind of have to like just be ready to hear anything back. But we're going to get over to one of my favorite segments of the Three Count Podcast, and that is the Three Count Podcast 10 Count Questions. Mr. Bailey, this is how it works. I'm going to fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and
Hmm.
whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
Sounds good.
All right. So I'm going to put on the imaginary timer for ad pressure. Bing! And in the words of my favorite announcer, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite movie?
Uh, Taxi Driver.
Okay. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite actor?
That's a hard one. John Cena.
Okay. PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox.
Okay. Favorite cartoon?
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Courage the Cowardly Dog is a great pick. Justice League or Avengers?
Avengers.
Favorite podcast?
3 count.
That's right, because we don't have this marketed everywhere that you guys can actually see right now. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Mm. Let's get JT Funk on here. Has he been on here?
JT Funk?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has been on
He's been
here.
on there?
Yeah.
Huh. Um, I guess anyone from anything ever.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, CM Punk would be cool. That'd be a good one to have on here.
I like that. Well, you know what? I like that a lot. I like that. Whether he comes on the show or whether he watches the show or not, we're going to find out one way or another. CM Punk, we need you on the show.
I
Last
hope
but
he's
not
watching.
least, last but not least, my favorite question I ask every single person who comes on the show: favorite curse word.
Fuck. It's very expressive. It's rough. It's aggressive. It could be soft, but neutral.
It could be soft. It could be nice. You'd be like, fuck, or you could be like,
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah.
I've been telling people about this video, right? That it's on YouTube. It's called "History of the F Word." Right? It's like a minute and 39 seconds long. It's on YouTube. It was viral before viral like became a thing, and I tell everybody they need to go check it out because it is so hilarious about like it's about the usage of the F word and where you can actually insert it into other words to exemplify that word. So it's awesome. But hey, those are all the questions I do have for you. So the last thing I need is for you to let our viewers and our listeners where they can find you.
You can find me mainly on Instagram at whoiskenyon. Uh, I'm on Facebook too. Kendrick Bailey, Kenyon Rowland, whichever. You can follow Pro Wrestling Altered on Instagram too. That's mainly where I do all the fucking wrestling stuff. Um, yeah, I mean that's basically it.
Well, there you go. He gave you all the handles. He told you about where you can find Pro Wrestling Alter. And you know what that means. Like every great part of a wrestling match, we got to take this on. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast Assist. Now into ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And, you know, like every good shirt, but it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering? You see him right there, Kendrick Bailey himself. And you guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there. Or you're legitimately just follow us on all of our social media platforms, which you can see down here below. You're even following us on our YouTube channel. You're either following us on Spotify, you're subscribed to us on Amazon Music, you're even leaving those 5-star frog splash reviews on Apple Podcasts. You're buying our merch on ProWrestlingTees.com or ForYourWear.com. You're even checking us out on I'm trying to figure out Rumble, whatever else other platforms are out there, because we're everywhere, it seems like. So you're doing all those things, you're checking us out, you're telling your friends about us, you're leaving those comments, you're telling your families about us, you're leaving those shares, and you're even telling your pet dog, who you probably, pushed to the side by now so you watch this video. You're telling him about it. You're sharing this video with even the people you don't like, because we like everybody, even if they don't like us. But more importantly, you're doing that stuff, talking about it, or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii.